The following is a production of Florida State University's Office of University Communications. Coming up on FSU Headlines, a Florida State University researcher makes a major break in a global battle. Florida State students raise $1 million to help sick children. And the Florida State family remembers a fallen alumnus whose legacy lives on. Stay tuned for these stories and much, much more. FSU Headlines starts now. Hello and welcome to another edition of FSU Headlines. I'm Dennis Schnitker. I'm joining you today from Florida State University's Museum of Fine Arts for a look at its current exhibit. But first, our top story, a major break in a global battle, and it happened right here at Florida State University. FSU biologists have discovered that the Zika virus directly targets critical brain development cells and stunts their growth. The finding is the first of its kind and could link the virus to a rash of birth defects in countries battling the outbreak. FSU Headlines reporter Mark Vaughn joins us now with more on this important breakthrough. Mark?
Scientists around the globe have been in a race against time to see if the Zika virus is causing cases of microcephaly in newborns. The Zika virus itself was discovered back in 1947, but very little is known about it. This research at Florida State may be an important first step in confirming the link. And in a race against time, this research happened lightning fast. Earlier this year, a research team from Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore brought neural stem cells here to the Florida State University biology lab of Professor Hung-Lee Tang.
Zika infection experiments are done.
Dr. Tang and his research assistants infected the samples with the Zika virus. Then they waited, monitoring the infected cells.
We obtained these very cells which are called cortical neuron stem cells, or precursors, that give rise to the part of the brain that's potentially affected by Zika virus or that is affected in microcephaly.
Dr. Tang and his collaborators at Johns Hopkins University and Emory University discovered that the virus directly targets a cell type critical to embryonic brain development as quickly as 3 days after exposure. They also learned that the infected cells replicate the Zika virus and interfere with cell growth and function. Some of the cells even died after being infected.
Our goal was to determine whether this virus can infect these cells, whether it will affect the function of these cells.
This is the first major finding that shows these critical brain cells are the target of the Zika virus and are negatively affected by it. The results were published a few weeks later, lightning fast in the science world.
You know, it's one of those things that makes you want to get to the lab as early as you can. I have students who didn't sleep trying to go through these things. It's really exciting because you're literally the first people in the world to know this.
Dr. Tang had been funded by the National Institutes of Health to study the dengue virus, which is similar to Zika. So he was in the unique position of already running a lab equipped to handle and study samples of the virus. Now, many questions still remain, but this discovery is a pivotal first step. Tang is currently investigating how the Zika virus enters the cell and how it specifically disrupts normal cell processes. Dennis, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. According to the World Health Organization, nearly 50 countries have reported local transmission of the Zika virus, including Brazil, which is set to host the Olympic Games this year. News of Dr. Tang's findings and Florida State University's role in the study were reported around the world. The Associated Press, the New York Times, and other major media organizations shared the story as a result of the university's communication work to announce Tang's results. And joining me now is Florida State University research writer Kathleen Hogney, who worked with Professor Tang to help get this story out. And Kathleen, this really was a remarkable effort to produce this breakthrough, correct?
Yes, Dennis, remarkable is a great word to describe this. Research can often take years to produce great results, and in this case, our researchers were able to get something together in a month. It was just a great collaboration between us and professors at Johns Hopkins University. In this case, all of the researchers went to graduate school together about 20 years ago, and so they were talking about what they could do to address this problem, and they were able to turn it around very quickly. Researchers from Hopkins brought stem cells down to Florida State. Professor Tang and his graduate students were able to infect the cells in the lab and then study them to see exactly what was happening there.
Now, as Mark reported, this doesn't answer all of the questions, so what's next for Professor Tang and his colleagues?
Right, there are still a number of questions that have to be answered about the Zika virus and how many people it affects and what exactly is going on there. So Professor Tang and his colleagues have a number of follow-ups planned. One of the things they really need to understand is the exact cellular process that is happening. So for example, they need to understand why exactly is it affecting these types of cells, or is it maybe also going to be looking at some other cells? They need to understand the process that happens once it gets inside the cell and starts replicating and why. And once they start to get a better understanding of these, they'll be able to start developing medications and other treatment options for this disease.
Florida State University research writer Kathleen Hogney, thank you for joining me. Again, Florida State University researchers making a major breakthrough in studying the Zika virus. More research news from FSU now. That's where Michael Koffler is studying ADHD and its effects on children. This is the Florida State University Children's Learning Clinic, and it's where Professor Michael Koffler and his grad students are finding out that children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder may be using movement to help them learn.
So we're really trying to understand hyperactivity in ADHD. So the prevailing view is that this hyperactivity is a bad thing. So they're moving around too much, it's distracting them, it's getting in the way, and it's generally something that we want them to stop. We think that maybe that's not the whole story. We think that the hyperactivity or that excess movement may actually be a coping mechanism or something that helps them to engage with the task, particularly things that are cognitively challenging or demanding type of tasks.
And Professor Koffler is also developing new non-medication treatments for ADHD. Well, practice makes perfect, especially for students presenting research they've conducted at Florida State University, which is why FSU's College of Human Sciences holds its annual Research and Creativity Day. From health and nutrition to family conflict behaviors, there's a wide variety of research to display at the annual event. The day begins with oral presentations in the morning, followed by poster presentations in the afternoon. Each participant speaks with judges about their topic, and they're graded on their material as well as their ability to answer questions. The winners are announced at the college's annual honors induction and recognition ceremony, but the immediate takeaway is priceless.
It's really awesome because here is kind of like our safe zone, so we can present and get feedback, but it could be constructive criticism, but we know that it's coming from a place of support and empowerment, and then it kind of prepares us for when we go out to like more national conferences like NCFR, where we're not going to know any of the people there, and that's a little bit more intimidating.
Well, coming up next, Florida State University students put on their dancing shoes for a great cause.
It's an amazing feeling to know that as a team, and we really did a good job. We raised a lot of money.
We'll tell you how much Dance Marathon raised for the kids when FSU Headlines continues in a moment.
I will forever bleed garnet and gold, and I will forever be here at heart.
Florida State is monumental in my academic and professional career, I think.
The professors are some of the greatest people I've ever met in my life.
We've always known if we wanted to go to Florida State, we were going to go to Florida State.
FSU helped me so much by giving me all the resources that I could need to succeed.
An amazing experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
When you buy a Florida State University license plate,
you're not just showing your school spirit.
You're supporting students like us.
In the lab,
in the classroom,
and in the library.
Putting this tag on your vehicle helps Florida State students achieve their dreams. So show your pride. Purchase an FSU license plate today.
Welcome back to FSU Headlines. I'm Dennis Schnitker. Dancing for a good cause is a staple here at Florida State University. For the past 20 years, Florida State's largest student-run philanthropy, FSU Dance Marathon, has been raising some serious cash to help children in need of specialized pediatric and medical care. This year's 21st installment was full of fun, but more importantly, it was another record-breaking year, which means more support for the kids. Check it out.
It's an amazing feeling to know that as a team, and we really did a good job. We raised a lot of money.
So tonight, watching all of you and knowing what you're about to undertake, this heart is bleeding garnet and gold.
You never realize until you're here like how fortunate you are, and it's something I want everyone to be able to experience.
You all, every single one of you, are changing lives. You're making a difference in the life of a young person. And if you have nothing else out of this experience, know that you have done that because of your hard work, your dedication, and your great loyalty to your human beings and mankind.
I just wanted to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for making this year everything that our team could have ever dreamed of for.
There's nothing that makes me prouder than to see you all here doing what you're doing for your fellow human beings and those who need help. God bless you. Thank you for all you do. I love you. Thank you. Thank you.
This is your hard work, your dedication, and your love, FTK. So, without further ado,
Since 1996, FSU Dance Marathon has raised nearly $8 million for charity. As global temperatures rise, the scientific community's concerns about sea turtles are also rising. Because sea turtle gender is determined by air temperature, scientists worldwide are concerned that higher temperatures will have a major impact on reproduction for the species. Here at Florida State University, researcher Mariana Fuentes studied beach temperatures in Brazil where sea turtles nest. She reviewed more than 25 years of data.
We need to understand what's happening at more than one nesting site. So that's why it's important to not only look at one place, but at a variety of nesting grounds so we can have a better idea or a better picture of what's actually happening. So for example, in Brazil, if we only had worked at one nesting site and that place was the place that was producing the most proportion of females, and if we hadn't looked at nesting sites in the south of Brazil, we wouldn't be able to identify the one that was producing more male hatchlings. So it's important to have a population scale understanding of what's happening, and therefore the need to be conducting new studies here in Florida at a population scale rather than just looking at one place.
Fuentes looked to specifically identify beaches in Brazil that produce higher numbers of male turtles in order to get a better understanding of the imbalance between sea turtle sex ratios. The historical data sparked a need for Fuentes to conduct research on sea turtles and beaches a little closer to home. That new research will soon provide even more data on the global impact of rising temperatures for sea turtles.
The idea is to expand this project in Brazil to Florida. So this summer we're going to start a monitoring program at the nesting beaches here in the coast. So hopefully St. Vincent Island and St. George Island. So we're going to start to collect some baseline data to see the sex ratio of hatchlings being produced. We're also starting to develop a program where we're bringing together experts to develop guidelines to be monitoring for the impacts of increasing temperature on sea turtles.
The loggerhead turtle is the most common sea turtle here in the coastal panhandle of Florida, and its nesting season is from May through August. You can read more about Fuentes' upcoming research here in Florida at news.fsu.edu. Well, March is National Women's History Month, but FSU's College of Communication and Information is a testament to uplifting women every day. Students from across Florida State University's campus and participants from around the nation gathered to network and learn from prominent female leaders during the 3rd annual Women in Leadership Conference, sponsored by FSU's College of Communication and Information. The event is designed for young women to learn and continue advocating for other women. They want to reach women in corporate, academic, and educational environments, as well as strategic and leadership roles. The Florida State University Museum of Fine Arts warmed up winter here with this wonderful, colorful, and extremely rare collection of art from Cuba that currently surrounds us. And joining me now is FSU Headlines reporter Alexia Gonzalez to tell us all about it.
Thanks, Dennis. Well, art can also include a technological element to it, but this special exhibit, Cuban Art in the 20th Century, is important in many ways, including connecting this museum and the College of Fine Arts with the Florida State College of Law. Take a look.
I guess we started working on this about 2.5 years ago.
Planning and executing an art exhibit is no small task, especially one of the largest collections of Cuban art to be displayed in the United States in 60 years. But Segundo Fernandez, self-described lawyer by day and art historian by night, along with a team from FSU's College of Fine Arts as well as FSU's Law School, did just that.
It's a collaboration of many people. To see people come to the show and for us to be able to deliver the messages that we wanted to deliver is very satisfying.
The exhibit provides a unique cultural experience celebrating Cuban landscape, history, mythos, and a rich and varied aesthetic that is as individual as each artist with over 100 beautiful works of art.
There are two concurrent theses of this show. One is that Cuban artists were fashioning a Cuban national identity. The second thesis of the show, which is not really contrary to but runs parallel to that first thesis, is that Cuban artists only wanted to be seen not as Cuban artists making Cuban art, but rather artists born in Cuba who were in dialogue with the international avant-garde and producing art for the world.
And the opening reception for the exhibit, Cultural Identity and the Avant-Garde and Cuban Art in the 20th Century, brought in over 1,400 guests, a magnificent melting pot of both the FSU and Tallahassee communities coming together to enjoy the phenomenal work on display.
I mean, there's so many people that if I heard it once, I probably heard it 100 times. We're coming back so we can spend some time with the pictures without a crowd.
Vamos a ver el arte de Cuba. Find out more about the exhibit here at Florida State University's Museum of Fine Arts online at mofa.fsu.edu.
Thank you, Alexia. A Florida State University alumnus continues the tradition and legacy instilled in him as a second-generation FSU graduate.
He always was a big Seminole fan, so him coming here was really an extension of his childhood. So to see that done here at Florida State is one of the important things.
We'll have that story and much, much more when FSU Headlines continues in a moment. Welcome back to FSU Headlines. I'm Dennis Schnitker. Spring sports are in full swing here at Florida State University, and it's also an especially exciting time of year for college basketball fans. FSU Headlines reporter Mark Vaughn joins us now to talk about the Seminoles. Mark?
Hey Dennis, that's exactly right. It is an exciting time of year for college basketball fans, but as you can see, it's an exciting time of year just for college fans in general. Baseball team out here practicing a little bit, but we'll start with the men's and women's basketball teams first. We'll start with the women's team in a not-so-fun ACC tournament this season. After going 2-0 against rival Miami in the regular season, the Noles ran into some trouble in the ACC tournament. Miami using some stifling defense to hold FSU to under 60 points and pulling off the upset of the number 4 seed. FSU ending the tournament early, but the NCAA tournament right around the corner. That's the next step for the Noles. Likewise, on the men's side, after a big senior day win over Syracuse at home, the men's basketball team heading to the ACC tournament looking for some help getting into the NCAA tournament if they could win. In the first game of the ACC tournament against Boston College, the Noles played some stingy defense, giving up just 66 points while putting up 88 points to start off the tournament with a big win. Switching gears to baseball, and the Seminoles off to a solid start to the season. going 8-2 in their first 10 games of the year, trying to pick up some momentum and continuity before heading to the heart of the schedule and ACC play in March. It'll be a good season on the diamond, of course, with games against the usual suspects in the Atlantic Coast and rivalry games against Florida and Miami on the schedule. March, big month for the Florida State Seminoles, with series against Georgia Tech, Pitt, NC State, and UCF. Over to softball, and the women's team looking for a hot start themselves, off to a 17-3 start in their first 20 games, and then heading out west to California for plenty of action before March moves them into ACC play as well. The Noles with some key returning players from a year ago, showing that leadership on the field, and they'll be ready for some big matchups against Notre Dame, Auburn, and Louisville on tap this season. All right, like I said, there's a lot of sports action going on here on campus at FSU, and remember, you can always stay up to date by visiting Seminoles.com. That's going to do it for me. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Mark. Florida State University gives back to one of its own who made the ultimate sacrifice for his country. FSU Headlines reporter Nora Bertollet has that special story. Take a look.
He was very profound. He loved to read. The week before he was killed, it was Memorial Day. And on his Facebook, he had posted a quote from Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities.
Some call it courage, some call it sacrifice. Whatever it is, it takes a special kind of person to dedicate their life to serving others.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the 3rd annual 2nd Lieutenant Justin Sisson Memorial 5K.
During this annual event, Florida State University comes together to celebrate the life of an alumnus who made the ultimate sacrifice.
This event represents our spirit, our family, our tradition, our excellence, our selfless service, and giving back to others.
Justin was our baby, and he was a fighter from day one, and he did not let anybody stand in his way just because he was small and younger than everybody else.
He always tried to do the absolute best. He wanted to be the absolute best in everything that he did.
When people send me stories about him, it's always about what he did for them.
Justin was the king of the underdog. He was a kid of causes.
Justin's concern for others evolved into serving others. So he knew he wanted to join the military from a young age.
But as a early teenager, I think the military became one of his fascinations. He loved history, so he loved studying that side of it. When kids were playing certain video games, Justin would be playing a strategy game. Once he got here to Florida State and really set his mind to that, he really grew up in that fact. And he had really one goal when it came to the military, and that was to lead his men into battle. That was his sole focus. So that's why he did a lot of the things he did to be a really good officer.
Justin died June 3, 2013 in Afghanistan, pursuing his goal of being the best officer he could be. And that legacy won't be forgotten, thanks to the Memorial Run and FSU ROTC scholarship in Justin's name.
The idea for giving back to Florida State was actually Justin's. He's the one that instructed us to create a fund at Florida State specifically for the cadets of ROTC. So I can't think of a better lasting legacy than something like this that was his idea.
And for the senior class, Chase Ransdell.
It's a true honor just to be associated with Justin, talking about someone giving the ultimate sacrifice. And I hope to be half the person he was as an Army officer, son, cadet, in everyday life. I hear a lot of stories about him and his impact, and it was just like he was a positive influence every single day, no matter what he was doing, and I just hope I can strive to be like that.
This was what he wanted. He wanted to give back for what they gave him. His experience here was very important to him. He's been gone 3 years in June, and there's not a day goes by we don't hear something from somebody that says, hey, was thinking about Justin today, was thinking about you today. The neatest thing about him was you talk to people that we didn't know were his friends, and he did something for them. Don't know what it was. Maybe it was a smile, maybe it was a wink, maybe it was just something. He just, he was infectious, I think, in that way.
It's said that people only die when we stop speaking their name. But through these stories and memories, Justin lives on.
A hero. He has become a hero for so many people. He's always been ours. I want people to know him. I don't want people just to think about him as somebody that died. I want people to realize that he lived, because he really, really lived. He had a very full life in 23 years, more so than some people can have in a lifetime. And the ripple effect of everybody that he has touched just goes on. And I think that's how I want him to be remembered.
To learn more about the Second Lieutenant Justin Sisson Exemplary Cadet Award, visit armyrotc.fsu.edu online. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of FSU Headlines, but you can see more news from Florida State University anytime at Florida State 24/7. It's the official news website of Florida State University, and you can find it online at news.fsu.edu. For everyone here at Florida State University, I'm Dennis Schnitker. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.